just want to extend a big warm welcome to everybody who's joining us from all over the world. You know, in a time of lockdown and all kinds of restrictions, it's really great to have a global community like this, and for us to still be able to meet and talk about the things we're passionate about, which is in this case Mendix. And you know, so I'm going to introduce Rene. Rene and I have been chatting for many years about all things Mendix, and we often find ourselves having all kinds of debates and trying to crack solutions, and it's always been a really great conversation. And one of the things that often comes up is obviously the rate of growth that Mendix is growing at globally is just quite significant, and that's shown to us that you know, we need a solution around scaling Mendix inside companies. You have to have an answer to that to match that type of growth, and to make sure you mitigate some risks within your own company. So, you know, Rene and I have been talking about it a long time, and he, in our conversations, has always raised some very interesting, good points, and has some clear thinking about it. So when the opportunity came up to organize a meetup, we said we had to do it. So I'm going to hand over to Rene. He's going to give us this talk, and I'm really excited to hear what he has to say. So, one more piece of admin though, sorry, before we get started. If you have questions, just hit them on the Q&A panel. I'll funnel them through to him at the end. And so, yeah, thanks, Rene.
Yeah, thanks, Derek, for the introduction. And just like Derek already mentioned, we had a lot of discussions, Derek and I. And I'm very happy to try to share my screen. That's one other thing I was trying to do while talking.
Skills.
Yeah, skills. Yeah. You never know. All right. Now everybody should see my screen, and if not,
you're all good.
All right, good. Yeah, I'm going to talk about how to scale your Mendix teams, and there are a few things at stake there. At first, your own company where you work. How does it work internally, and how do you address the cohesion inside the company? So that's one point. Secondly, you're working with Mendix, and maybe you're stepping from traditional Java, .NET, or C# development, maybe using ABAP or another tool, and switching to Mendix. So that is also a challenge you have to address. And then you need to learn Mendix. So a few things come together, and I have been working with Mendix and training with Mendix for about 10 and a half years now. And I try to explain a few things on how can you scale your teams, how can you make them proficient with Mendix and successful with Mendix on it from a more training perspective. That being said, I'm starting with a familiar picture, I think, for many of you. In the Mendix world, there's a picture of Mendix. Start, structure, scale. Starting with your Mendix practice, then on a certain moment you start structuring and start scaling. And Mendix has a good story about for that. I want to use it to paint a picture on what are your statuses and where are you, and how will you act in these different phases. And not from marketing perspective, but pure enablement training perspective, and how you really make them good working. Start the situation where you will first deliver your first app, pilot, see what works within your organization, within your teams, with the people you do have. A short development cycle where you will experience how the Mendix platform will work for you. And the goal is to demonstrate collaboration, business identity, so that you will see that the Mendix platform is not just a other development tool, but also that you can make it happen together. And it's focused on success, making it work for one, maybe two applications, show the capabilities of. Once you make the decision, right, we're going to structure it. We're going to grow with the Mendix platform. We do not have a single app or two apps, maybe three apps, but no, we're going to to the next level. And the next level means we're making a strategic decision. We want to build more or make even all our apps using Mendix. Then you're going to expand, and you have had your experience in the start situation, but then you need to start structuring and structure the approach on how you will deliver your Mendix app and organize everything around it. Reuse of component-based development. Now, I will refer to that later. And you start really forming your Mendix teams, where in the start phase, you will just have maybe cowboy-like, let's go make it. It's the time to really form your teams. Structure for further success. And yeah, the last phase, or the phase where you're scaling, you have your team, you might have all your stuff around it, but then you need to have proper governance, and then you're on the level of portfolio management and that kind of stuff. So more high-level management, so that everything inside will become successful, and then you have scaled success, or that's where you're organizing for scaled success. So that was one picture, the start, structure, scale situation, piloting, structuring, and then growing and scaling. Next to that, another vision of Mendix is the 4 Ps, the portfolio, people, process, and platform. And where portfolio are all the apps or the potential apps or the cases for Mendix apps, is the people, everyone involved in the whole structure of in the Mendix development, not only the developers, but also the stakeholders and also the IT, the business and such. The process within the organization, how will you organize your process in the organization to make it a success? And of course, the platform, that will be, of course, Mendix in this case. All 4 very important, but I want to focus on the people at this moment. Portfolio important, platform, of course, everybody find it important here. Process to make it a success, of course, as well. But I'm about the people, or I want to talk about the people. And let's meet them. And I try to distribute them or categorize them in 3 categories. And everybody knows the moment you start categorizing something, then there will always be a discussion about categorization. It can always be different, and you can regroup until you're ancient. But I divided in these 3 for having a proper discussion. I think you have your developers, your Mendix developers, and I identify the Mendix, the Rapid, and the Expert Mendix developer. On the other side, you have the business, represented by a product owner or a business owner responsible for, in the end, maybe the revenue streams related to the app, and the subject matter experts or the users who are involved in the real process and might use the application and have something to tell about the business processes involved. And on the other side, enablement and support. I'm not sure if the term is 100% spot on, but everyone who is related to the development process from a perspective not being the business, but supporting like the operations, the architect, quality engineering, and UX designers, and anyone else around who can make a success for the development team or as support, enable the team. Let me first focus on the development team, the Mendix Developer, as we know it. But who is the Mendix Developer? Let's take a look at who is that person. And there he is. Like I already mentioned, 10.5 years ago, I started with Mendix, and we just go for it. We went to a customer, 1 or 2 consultants. We sat down, opened our laptop and did magic using Mendix and literally everything. We were technical. We used Mendix and Java, and especially in that time, Java was even more needed than nowadays. We had to do fancy stuff in the front end, custom JavaScript, and today we have Atlas UI, where your styling is pretty easy, or at least structured. Back in the days, it was a bigger challenge to make something beautiful. So we're quite technical. On the other side, we had to talk with the business. So we're also the business engineer in this story. We had to do project management. We had to use Scrum and hold us to that, stakeholder management and such. So this quote, the two-headed Mendix dragon, that's actually one of the quotes of Derek Rose about 8 or 9 years ago. The two-headed dragons from the basement, they can do everything. If you have a business background, you become technical. If you have a technical background, you will become also business, and you can do everything. And that was how it was back in the days. And nowadays, you still see Mendix developers with these both skills, being a two-headed dragon, technical and business. But if you start talking about scaling, that will become a part which will break you, which will hold you back from scaling, because you cannot make everyone doing everything. And that's where we want to introduce the T-shaped person, the one who is capable of working with Mendix and has some soft skills on the left and some hard skills on the right, or you might swap them from me, but soft and hard skills represented in the same person, where you might have technical skills on the front end, React, JavaScript, integrations, knowing about REST APIs, complex integration scenarios, microservices and such, cloud, how you will govern your own cloud, or using the Mendix cloud, or being familiar with Dockers and Kubernetes and do fancy things there, and maybe some other technical things. You can make this list as long as you wish. And on the other side, you have your project skills. How do you your project management? How do you UX, as in design thinking and design workshops, and people management. As a lead developer, people management is also at stake there, and you can extend this list as well. And of course, as a Mendix developer, you should be very proficient with Mendix in the first place, because that makes you a Mendix developer. So that's where your T-shape is. You're strong in Mendix, very good in Mendix, and you have knowledge about everything on the left and on the right, so you can act within the team, act as a developer. A pie-shaped person in that perspective is someone who has Mendix skills, some other additional skills is familiar with, but very strong in one other profession. I pictured here UX, so maybe design thinking, a design workshop, and that kind of stuff you can lead, and also be proficient as a Mendix developer. While on the other hand, maybe you are very strong in an integration. Maybe you are proficient in multiple areas, so then you will become a proficient in all shapes. And in the end, if you would be able to cover everything, that you will become the Mendix two-headed dragon. But it all starts with being proficient with Mendix with one strong point and maybe growing over time. My idea about a Mendix advanced developer, in the general, the most common developer, is you should be proficient with Mendix, good in Mendix, know the platform, know the capabilities and such, and have more knowledge about projects, so that you're capable of joining a project, leading a project. UX, more than I can implement a style, I can implement a design, but also understanding what personas are, knowing what the task flow is and such. On the right side, front end, not being able to write your own React pluggable widgets, no, but you can use them. You know what's going on there. You can build them a proper front end using Mendix integration. You are able to implement the REST service and such, which does not mean that you are an in-depth, knowledgeable person. And of course, as an advanced developer, you will have your strong points, but that will make you a pie-shaped person. But the minimal T would be this. And next to that, you will be an expert developer, which have a very specific strong point on that, or maybe on UX, or maybe on something else, or whatever. But that makes you an expert in that field, next to being an advanced developer, where a Mendix two-headed dragon will cover them all. And this is how you should look to your people. Who is strong in which area? A quick overview of the other people, enablement and support. What should they be capable of? If you plot that on the T-shaped person, a UX designer, should he be very proficient within Mendix? No, certainly not. On the other hand, it will be nice if a UX designer is making designs with or fit for purpose for a Mendix application, and not some flashy things which causes a lot of rework within Mendix, and missing the goal of the application. An enterprise architect, of course, is very good that they have knowledge about the Mendix platform. Of course, it's good that they know how you can model stuff within Mendix. But should they be proficient and be able to deliver Mendix applications themselves? It would be nice, but that's not the aim of an architect in the first place. Not saying maybe you're a Mendix architect while you had a Mendix developer role. That would be nice, but at least you should have some knowledge if you're just the architect or involved in triact in development with Mendix. The same applies for cloud operations. You're very proficient with Dockers and Kubernetes and doing fancy stuff on the Azure cloud or whatever. Nice. If you're familiar with Mendix, that makes lives easy. But is it necessarily needed? Not necessarily. No, not in depth. Not as a Mendix developer. Also for QA and testing, the test practice within the Mendix community. I think that's not covered enough in our practice. I really believe that it should have a bigger position within our community. And therefore, we need test experts who can enable us as developers, helping us with testing frameworks, with CI/CD pipelines, with a testing framework inside and such. Should they be proficient with Mendix? No, at least you should understand it, because if the moment you start talking about front-end testing, yeah, it would be nice if you know a little bit about the way the Mendix pages are created and how they're technically structured. That will help a bit. Should they be able to build their own pages with a lot of microflow logic, having a REST service integration? No, I think that's not the goal of a tester, but enablement. So I try to make a distribution to, all right, I'm a Mendix developer, I'm very strong with Mendix, and I have my own specific strong points. And you have people around it, support and enablement, which have specific knowledge and not necessarily being Mendix, but additional to it. And of course, you might say, all right, I'm a Mendix developer, but I'm also good in testing. Oh, perfect, nice. So you combine these two roles in one. And that makes you even more valuable. But it is not necessarily needed. And that's the way you should start thinking. The moment you start scaling, you must be effective and not being as a single person, but as a team. What do you need in your team? What can you achieve with the people in your organization? And you should not think about what can I do as a single developer. I want to know everything. I want to be able to develop an application. I want to do React. I want to do the testing. I want to do the fancy integration and that kind of stuff. No, you are a team within an organization which has to deliver value to the organization. And that should be your starting point. So what do you need in your team toolbox? Not in your personal toolbox, but in your team toolbox. And what kind of applications are you building is very important. Are they internal? Are they B2B or B2C? Why do I make this distribution? B2C require a little bit more flashy interaction. Design is very important. For an internal application, design is also important in the sense that it should support the business process, but supporting a business process inside an organization might be more technical focused, while a B2C application, I as a customer, when I'm using an application, I don't want to need explanation about the features. I just want to be able to use it easy. So your focus on design is a little bit different. It requires a different focus of the design, for example. Also, the way you secure your app, the complexity in roles, and how you will handle that, for example. Which infrastructure are you using? Are you running on the Mendix cloud? It's a lot easier than when you're running on your private cloud and you have to handle that yourself. So you need different skills within your organization. What kind of landscape do you have on apps? Are it single apps? Is there many integrations? Is there integration with your internal systems? Do you have integration with external systems? Do you have a microservices setup or not? That's all defining the skills you need within your organization. And maybe until now I have been kicking open doors, and you might say, yeah, we know this already. That's all kind of logic. I know, or at least for me, it is quite kind of logic. But what I do experience in many organizations which I enter, when I ask these questions, and when you want to answer these questions correctly, and you take time to address them properly, you will find surprises. Let's take a look at the start phase and your people. I think the start team is the go make it team. Just do it, make it work, and prove that what you can do with Mendix, and just make a team. And we can argue about the complete composition, but I want to emphasize that this is together you need to achieve something. So not only the developers, maybe an architect is involved, maybe a business owner is involved, the product owner and the subject matter expert. And the more people you can get involved in that process, the better, because then you really have the feeling with the organization. Then you know what really adds the value and what will define success in the end. Just do it. The next step is when you start structuring, then you need a little bit more. Then you need a team with Mendix developers, rapid, advanced certified, and it's not about the numbers, it's about the scope. And you need to start thinking about enablement and support. I put the architect in the enablement and support role, because I do think that that's the moment where it is not about, okay, we are building an app as a team, and within this team, for this app, we have to solve our own issues. No, it is about adding value to the organization and structuring the way you add value to that organization. So it is nice to have someone involved from UX perspective, designing the front end for the application. That's nice. But what if you build your second and your third and your fourth and your fifth application? Will you do it all over again? Or will you start structuring someone who is enabling the team with your Atlas UI is great, but how do you make your company-related, company-specific Atlas UI, which will provide you with a Atlas UI resources with the company styling, with the page templates and the building blocks, so that you can build your pages. This is a dashboard within our organization. This is how a list appears in our organization. This is the header we're going to use on certain specific pages. If you develop that kind of stuff, then you will enable your development teams to pick up the development even quicker. Then designing a new application is not necessarily needed, or at least not from scratch each time. You have a baseline, you have development guidelines, or and such. The same applies for ops. And I see a question from Rick about DevOps teams. Definitely, but here I put ops in. You often see that Mendix teams themselves will do the deployment. They're in control of their own monitoring of the app. And if you're using the Mendix cloud, that's already organized. Let's put it that way. And you're able to do it. And within your team, you can create a DevOps team in that perspective quite easy. But what if you're running on your own servers, or you're running on Azure? What if, so a lot needs to be done yourself on orchestrating of all the environments. Will the team do that themselves, or is there an organized structure within the company who take care for that? And not only you have to file 3 requests and do it the traditional way, or are you enabling the Mendix teams with the service configured for Mendix applications out of the box? And I think that is a supporting role, and not necessarily inside the team. And of course, then the team can be a DevOps team, development and operations, maintenance on the app, but that's a different ops than I envision here. And the same applies for the QA and testing. Shouldn't be there a tester in the team or directly connected with the team? Yes, of course. But how is your testing process in general organized? How is it organized in relationship with the CI/CD pipeline? The test tooling, are they in place? How can the Mendix development team use that or be part of the test process, test policies and such? That does not come because you use Mendix. So you hit F5, you will test your application locally. It works on my machine, so I tested it. That's the way we did it 10 years ago, but that's not how it works if you start structuring your organization and preparing for scaling. Then you need to spend your time and energy on testing best practices and such. And I believe that's a separated role, which is a supporting role for the team. And I'm here in structuring. So actually laying the foundation on supporting everything for, in this case, maybe a single thing, but then you start scaling, and then you have multiple teams, and then you have multiple apps, and then you'll have 10, 20, 30 apps. That's the scaling part. And that is where it is very valuable to have a Atlas UI resources, which is the baseline for all the designs for all the applications. So not designing from scratch. Then you want to release your apps and push it in all the cloud environments easily, instead of, we need a new environment. Let's file threefold, and we hope within 3 months we'll have something. That were the old days. We have to prepare for that. So that's what I meaning with the enablement and support role. Enabling everything, putting everything in place so that you can focus on your development and running the app in the DevOps mode. And I put a lead coach there as well. I make an expert developer there, and maybe an expert developer will also be part of a team. True, it's not necessarily restricted in this way, but it's about the approach that you make developers also a expert developer responsible for the development best practices within the organization, they can coach the several teams, so that if newbies come inside of a team, that the team can still be productive, but there is a proper expert developer who can coach the newbies, new developers, can coach the teams as development teams, who can be in control or be in the role to guide the development best practice and such. And I deliberately made some gray because it's not about one team, 2 teams, 3 teams. Maybe you have 10 development teams within the organization. I know it's a little bit much, but if you're a big company organization, you might end up there. And then you can repeat yourself. If you have a proper structure phase and you know what a definition of a Mendix team in your organization is, you know which skills are needed in the organization, then you can train your people there. That's the idea. All right. So that's the start, structure, skill, and that's more about the perspective and about the type of people inside the organization and how they will collaborate with each other. So back to the start, put everyone in a box, go make it and make it work. Here we're going to distribute things and we're going to organize stuff, laying the foundation on that collaboration, and then structured in such way that you can scale and you can add teams to it, but the foundation is laid. All right, nice, but where do you find them? Where do you find the team? Yeah, you have to search them. And where do you search them? It can be on several spots, and I'm pretty sure I didn't cover everything, but roughly you can either recruit and train them internally. Maybe you have business analysts who are tech savvy and are willing to take the leap to a Mendix developer, or someone who is in the Java branch and said, right, let me do something with that low-code thingy called Mendix. Maybe they're up for it. The benefit is that you have, if you pick a technical guy from internal, you have development skills. So development best practices will relate with that person, is easy to adopt. He can even contribute that from more software engineering perspective, and is from the company, so he knows the company as well. If you have someone from the business, he's business skilled. He's thinking from the business, so you bring that into the team. Has domain specific knowledge. This is how the processes run within our organization. If you bring that knowledge inside your development teams, that's even a strong point as well. Or maybe hire Mendix developers. Although the reality is that is a hard thing. And yeah, I'm from the Netherlands, so in the Netherlands we have the challenge of finding good advanced and expert developers. They're not widespread, but in the Netherlands there are much compared to the rest of the world. So if you're in South Africa or America or India, I even saw it, the number of developers is even less, so the challenge is not even harder. And in the end, here in the Netherlands, you'll see that yeah, advanced or expert developers are recruited from others. But that means that the advanced developer will move from this company to another company, and this company has its problem solved, and the other company has a new problem. So it doesn't solve the problem, it only moves it around. So in my perspective, that's not a solution. There's only a solution for one person, and that's the developer itself, because he will earn more. So it's no solution. And the last one is hire and train external people, and that relates to the first one. Tech or business skilled is an option, or young professionals, new blood, eager and innovation you will get inside your company. Because I might be a little bit older. I hope it's not really upfront, but I like to work with people within their 20s. They have eager ideas. They think out of the box. They have ideas where I didn't think about. They ask the stupid questions, or not stupid questions, but triggering you. So that's also a good thing. And train them using Mendix, train them to be an engineer within your company. But how? How do you train your developers? How do you ensure they are becoming proficient with Mendix? And of course, everybody knows from the Mendix marketing, just take the Rapid Developer course and you can do it, right? That's very easy. And we all know that that is not true, to be honest, especially when you're in the skill phase where you need people or developers in your organization to build really mission critical applications. That's a different ball game than just building Mendix applications for success in the first place, in the start phase. So you need to do a little bit more investment on that. And there's a growth path. And that growth path is, of course, you can take the Rapid Developer course and start building and learning on the job. That's a good thing. Learning on the job will bring you in practice, and you will learn from practice. Although I really believe in the plan and practice and reflect scenario. Because when you just start, you just join a Mendix project, you will do the small things first. Build a page, extend the page. Change this small microflow, copy paste this microflow and alter it a bit for another scenario. But the big question is, do you really understand what you did? Or did you just repeat what was already in the project available? And of course, you can learn from that, but understanding it and repeating it, or even building something from scratch, is a different ballgame. And therefore, you need to really have a learning curve. You have to build skill. First, you need to plan what I'm going to learn in the next period of time. I want to become proficient with REST services. All right, do you know what a REST service is? No, well, maybe you should read some theory about REST services, what the REST service is in general. Do you know how to implement a REST service in Mendix? No, well, maybe practice a bit with implementing a REST service and not in a production running app, which needs to be delivered in 2 weeks. No, try it with a pilot project. Do you know how to implement a proper REST service? Not the Mendix how to, oh yeah, my REST service works. Yeah, but what if the service is down? What if your response is different than expected? What if? Can you handle the exceptions? No, maybe you should learn that as well. So plan to learn the bits and pieces around the subject. Know what you know. And that planning should be done not only by yourself, but with the Mendix lead developer, who can trigger you and challenge you on certain stuff. Plan it and then do it. Practice it. Just build that REST service. Try it out. Break it. Screw up. Do it all over again. Practice. And then review. And not by, yeah, my REST service works, tick in the box. No, let the expert developer review your work and provide feedback on it. And sometimes it is a good review. Sometimes you have done it well and then tick in the box, done it. Sometimes, nah, it's not exactly what it should be. Maybe you should learn a little bit more. Get that feedback as well. Improve it, iterate over again, practice again, and review it again until you're back in the happy spot. Another way of learning is explaining and demonstration. Instead of me reviewing your work, explain me what you did and how it should work. And rubber duck testing is also one of the known quotes. It is not really rubber duck testing, but it has the same purpose. Explaining an expert what you did will give you the answer if you've done it right. You know it, you will feel it. And if you get feedback, then it relates. I focused on, and I used the example of a REST service, and I did it deliberately because that's a technical thing. That's is knowledge. How do I implement a REST service? Where do I click? How do I make it? How do I do my error handling? How do I hold exceptions and such? But that doesn't answer the question, how do you add value to the business? How do you add value to the business using that REST service? So why are you calling that REST service? And what is the outcome of the REST service? There's a purpose. You're not going to call a REST service because you want to call a REST service. No, probably you want to push or get certain data to do something for the business. Because if that part is not covered, why the hell would you call a REST service, right? So in that perspective, I do think that the thought process of the developer is way more important than the knowledge of a developer. A developer should be able to think, all right, how do I add value? This functionality is for A, and that's the reason, hey, we have a user stories. As a user, I want to have something so that I'm happy. That's the user story, right? A user story is not, I want to call a REST service so I'm happy as a developer. So with that in mind, you need to be able to think from, all right, what is the goal? Why am I developing what I'm developing? All right, I'm going to call this REST service because I need to obtain certain data so that I can make a selection in my front end. And based upon that selection, I want to push it somewhere else. All right, then the process is leading you. If you call that REST service, how do you handle that exception? If it is a backend process, then you have to write some log files and ensure that the error can be picked up somewhere else. If a user is involved, I would like to have a message if something went wrong. Otherwise, I click on something, I expect something, but nothing happens. I'm not informed. So the way how you implement that REST service is depending on the process and of the user and how you will have to elaborate that. If you're going from that thought process, then you can also deduct, all right, if I have to call a REST service to show it in a list so that a user can make a selection on it, then you know, all right, I need to call a REST service. I have to push out a list. I have to view that in the page. And then when I'm in the page, I need a ability to select something. And then I have to do some other fancy stuff. Then you can deduct the steps. Then you can deduct, all right, I need to call a REST service. I need a front end. I need to build a page, and maybe I need some design on that because the selection made requires a certain interaction. All right, what are my skills? Can I call a REST service? Yes, all right, I can tick in the box. Can I design that page? No, all right. Will I start learning that? So I will extend my knowledge, or will I ask someone else to do it? And that's the team effort. If you have a good team, if you're scaling your organization, then all these skills must be covered, not necessarily in one person. And these persons should have the right thought process so that they, if they run into an issue, that they do not start learning themselves, start building their own knowledge in the first place. No, learn to collaborate within the organization and have an organization structured so that it is possible. Because if I would build an application pure on my own knowledge within my own skills, then I will build the left building with the big Lego blocks. Because I'm not able to build a house on the right in my own. I need people who have certain skills, which I don't have. But the moment we start collaborating, we can make it happen. So the two-headed dragon might build a house on the left, while a two-headed team will build a house on the right. And how do you facilitate that? And now bluntly publishing my own company, because I believe that the Mendix Rapid Developer courses, the advanced courses, the online courses are really laying a proper foundation for the knowledge. But how do you have to plan, practice, and reflect That's something you have to organize in your organization. Do you have the right people to do that? Otherwise, get it from an external company, because you have to organize it. This is not something which will start yourself. It's not, you'll have good developers in-house. I hired an expert developer so that coaching will be done. No, you have to make time for it to do the coaching. You need to have a knowledgeable person who is able to coach, because it's a different ballgame. And then when you have your team, when you have trained them, you're done. No, I think that is very important. If you want to have teams at scale, it's a continuous process. And of course, when you have multiple teams and you have multiple developers, once in a while someone will leave, someone will come in. Of course, that process will always be there. But also inside a team, how do you make the team learning from each other? Ensure a culture of innovation and progress. So I worked at a shipyard, and I was asked, change the way we do the training here. I said, all right, I'll take the challenge. And the only thing I heard when I proposed things, yeah, but we're working for 40 years like this, so that's how we will keep doing that. So therefore, you need a culture of innovation and progress. Otherwise, you will get stuck. Culture of knowledge sharing. Are you afraid to share your knowledge, or are you afraid to learn stuff? You should be open to learn stuff. If not, then your growth will be blocked. Another way of encouraging on learning is FedEx days. The wonderful thing of Mendix is that each month they have a new release. But the drawback is that they have every month a new release. And on the moment you're stuck with, all right, we have Data Hub, that's nice. Oh, we have pluggable widget, that's nice. But we need to work with it. And we want to learn with it, but you need time for it. Pilot, what can you do? Data Hub, does it sound nice? Yes, I do think that there are quite fancy things you can do with the Data Hub, but you have to explore it. And how does Data Hub, next to the marketing story, how does it fit within your organization? What can you do within your organization with Data Hub? And therefore you need to play around with it. So encourages with FedEx days or experimenting, allowing your developers to do it, and such. So it's about the team, the person itself. Which skills do you have for the persons? Which skills do you have within your teams? What do you need in the team? And how do you train these skills within individually, but also in the teams as well? I was afraid when I created a slide that would be finished in 20 minutes. We're already 50 minutes ahead, so maybe time for me to start or shutting down and take a look at the questions and see if we can I can answer that together with Derek.
Yeah, cool. Thanks for that, Rene. That was really valuable. I enjoyed it a lot. We've got a few questions, so let me read them out to you and you can answer them. So I'm going to start from the shortest question, actually from John, who asks, what are the ways to drive innovation in teams?
Yeah, let me grab back to the last slide. I'm going to read the question myself as well, because then I can paint a picture in my head. What are the ways to drive innovation in teams? I think it starts with a culture. Maybe translated to how can you drive innovation within your company? And one of the first things you should not do is making an innovation team. Because I've seen large companies that, right, yeah, what's your role? Yeah, I'm chief innovation. And I have a team of people who driving the innovation within our organization. But that ends up within, yeah, we have some corner in nowadays we're working from home, but a corner in the office there. Those are the nerdy guys, and those are doing the fancy things and the innovation. And then they are trying to put that innovation inside the company, but the company says no. It's the same I had within the shipyard. Rene, do something innovating with training, but the rest of the company says no. We're still building ships the way we did it for 40 years, and that's the way I will do it. And you have to stick with that. So that does not really work. So it should be part of the company. Innovation inside the team, in the teams, in the company itself, and not necessarily by a specific group of people. That's the first thing. Secondly, I think innovation starts with stuff which is not related to innovation itself. It's about a culture of allowing of failure. That's the first thing. Allowing that not everybody is as good as the other one because you are a newbie or you have to learn. That's a surrounding or a group of people who trust each other. I think that's the foundation of innovation, because if you cannot trust each other, if you're not allowed to fail or do not feel that you are allowed to fail, then you can start as a company. Yeah, we're an innovating company and we want you to innovate. Yeah, but innovation between, I don't know, I'm not completely sure, but I believe who invented the light bulb. I think he said, I found 99,000 ways of how it didn't work. And that's innovation. Trying, playing around, failing 100 times. And then the moment you do not expect it anymore, then it works. That's what innovation is. Or I believe, in my opinion, that is innovation. So driving innovation is...
If I can tag on to that as well, is your example of William Bell. He actually said, like, my name's on the invention, but it was a process of hundreds of people over years and years of work. The fact that I eventually made it work in such a way is not due to me, but because of the work of a whole host of people. And I think that's the same for a company, as you said, Rene, is it should fall to the whole company as all the people. And not a single team, because if you sit a team apart and say, these are the innovation people, the other people think, well, all right, I'll just do my normal work and you guys do your special thing. But you have to get everyone in the room in the same mindset of, we can all fail, we can all try, we can all do great stuff. And the better we work together in that way of thinking, the more innovation there will be. If innovation, if you, not really a tangible thing, but you know what I mean. So yeah, I fully agree with that. Yeah.
All right, thanks for looking it up, because I knew it was somewhere. It is just hard to quote someone if you don't know it exactly.
Do you want to go through the other questions directly, or do you want me to read them out?
Yeah, can you pick another question, then I will jump in.
Go for Rob's one next, which is, you want to read it out there?
Are you subject matter expert as sort of a business analyst, and are the PO and subject matter expert building up backlog stories, or do the Mendix Dev business engineers do that as well? That's a tricky question, because that depends on the company. Let's pick the Scrum best practices. The product owner should be in the lead for creating the user stories and maintenance of the backlog, and ensuring that you have a proper prioritized backlog. So in the sprint planning meeting, you have the discussion with your PO. That's the Scrum theory and the Scrum practice. We all know that not always happens, that PO needs some guidance. Also, from Mendix development team, I also think that Mendix developer, they're not developers pure as in nature of, right, tell me what to build and we will build it. No, it's a collaboration between business and the development team. So are Mendix developers resources involved in the process of requirements engineering and crafting the user stories? I do think so. I think they should be involved in a certain level, but how the distribution is done, I think that's really depending on the company. Although the product owner should be in charge. If you have a good product owner, the product owner is in charge. I missed the subject matter experts. No, that's not the business analyst. That's the subject matter expert. So in a company, you make an application for the finance department, for example. The subject matter expert is the guy who is doing the finance, for example, who knows the financial processes within the organization, which might be captured within the application, and he also knows about the policies and the governance requirements and such. And of course, that should be collected by a business analyst and wrapped. But the subject matter expert is the one who's providing the input on that. I can tell you during development more about it. For example, one of my last projects I did as a consultant myself last year was for the Belgium waterways, and they had to provide certificates for boats, for ships, and the certificates were signed by people who did surveys on the ship vessels. So the one who did the surveys was involved in the process, taught a lot about the process, how it worked. So we could build an application fit for purpose for that scenario. So he was an input for us. All right, I hope this answers the question a bit.
Yeah, I think so. There's a few more questions. Stephen asks, what about the apps that are not in active development, but yet need a bug fix from time to time? Is there Mendix dev team / resource sitting in enablement and support for this across products?
No, I think that should be part of a Mendix team. And how you organize that, is that an existing team which do develop it for one app and takes responsibility for another app? That could be. But with the enablement and support, I just see that is the enablement and support for the teams. So providing them with a good Atlas UI resources company styled. That the organization of how do we do the QA and testing within our organization and with our development process, that is supported in that. So it is it about the support for the apps itself? Then that's in the teams.
Okay, cool. All right, that's cool. Arthur asks, what are the timelines for implementing Agile in an organization? That's quite a context. That answer needs a lot of context, I think, on the organization. What do you think, Rene?
Which question is it? Is that from?
It's by Arthur.
Arthur, what are timelines for implementing Agile in an organization? Too long?
Yeah.
I think the answer is too long. On average, yeah. But that really depends on the organization. How big is your organization? How many people are involved? If you would implement Agile at the shipping company where I worked, I think that's impossible because of the nature of the company. So that no, I cannot answer that. No. No, I can't. I wish I could. No. All right.
Okay, cool. All right, Gavin asks, how do you manage the trade-off between structure versus speed to implement?
I think let's divide it in two. The structure phase, so spending your time on getting it structured, that will cost you time. I think that should be a side process next to delivering your apps. And that might cost a little bit of speed, in the first place. But what if you won't do it? Then you have a lot of drawback and pushback with things which are not organized, and then you have to solve that later on, and that will cost you also speed. It's the same as like testing. You can run an application without testing in production, it works, but then you have to do a lot of bug fixing and maybe handling other stuff you don't want. It will cost you in the end more time. So up front, it will cost you more time to have proper test practices, but in the end, you will gain a lot. So what will you do? Next to that, I believe that if you have structured it properly, that you can speed up your delivery. Because if you have structured it properly, and you have, again, the good example of if you have proper Atlas UI resources, then you can quicker build your application, start building your applications with the look and feel and within the styling policies of the company, instead of doing it all over again. So in structuring your organization costs time, but I see it as an investment on the longer term. Just like also what I said about learning from or training of your developers. You can say, right, do the rapid developer course and just start working in the teams. But how long will it cost before that person is really up to speed with Mendix? Or do you start with a period of learning before joining the real project? And in my belief, the last is the better, because then you have a better foundation where you will increase your learning curve. Investment.
Yeah, okay, that's great. What Coffee asks is, what was your experience like the first time you were put in a position to coach juniors, and how did you go on about it? Maybe talk about what you learned from that experience.
Learn them to think. That's the most important thing. At the moment you start coaching juniors and medias, what I often see is that everyone's starting with something. They want to learn the technical part. They want, well, how do I implement a REST service? How do I build a proper domain model? How do I implement CSS? How do I this? But those are just the buttons. It's very important, but it's secondary. If you have the wrong thought process, so this, the picture of the two houses, and maybe I cross it a bit quick, is if you have the wrong thought process and all your knowledge, you still build a crappy house. Because maybe from a technical perspective it does work, but the user is still not served properly. If you have a good thought process and limited knowledge, then you can identify where you lack your knowledge. And then you either can choose to improve your knowledge or use the knowledge of someone else. And I think that last one is way better. So coaching of juniors and mediors is hold them back from diving into knowledge. And but why did you start? And why do I have where I need to go to? What's your thought process? Is that correct? No, it's not correct because you didn't find the answer. So let's start all over again. Learn how to think, and the rest will follow. And that's not only for juniors and mediors, it's also for experts, also for idiots like me. My thought process is the most important thing.
This is on tape now, Rene.
I know. I'm always honest also about myself. There's one more question and then finish it. Just one more. Shouldn't product owners be more Mendix aware? We struggle to transition from documentum-based systems to Mendix. Yeah, that's always a struggle. Because POs do know the old platform not enough. Yeah, agree completely. Sure, show them the magic. How can you provide them value using Mendix? That's definitely a good one. How you will do that? That little bit depends also on the product owner. Are they more business value focused or are they technical focused? Why do they hold onto Documentum? Because they know the product, they know the technical side, they know the capabilities of it. So make sure that they know Mendix as well, the same way. All right, time to shut up.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Those are all the questions done. Thanks, Rene. That was really great. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
I think a really interesting. I don't know if people read or still read nowadays, but I have recently read 2 books on this idea of generalists and specialists, and I think that ties really well into this topic. So, if anyone's interested in books, or I use Storytel nowadays to listen to audiobooks. I think in the US you have like Audible or something like that. It's one is really interesting. It's called Range: How Generalists Triumph in a Specialized World by David Epstein. That was really exceptional. And the other one is called The Knowledge Illusion: Why We Never Think Alone. That's where I, for example, also got that sample I mentioned before, where all the inventions and great innovations that have happened over the centuries and over decades, we often attribute it to one specific person or a specific, there's always a specific name that we tie to this, right? As Einstein, there's, who invented the laws of gravity and all of that. But in reality, it's always the work of a village. It's always the work of a team and hundreds of people who came before that, who build and build and build on top of that knowledge. And then eventually you get that so-called innovation and invention. But those are the 2 books that I would recommend if you want to read more up on this stuff.
Can you post a link or a name in the Meetup channel for
yes,
Mendix?
I will. I'll post it. Yeah, we'll definitely do, for sure. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, cool.
Thanks, man, for allowing me to talk for an hour. Thanks.
Yeah, for sure. And this is being recorded. I saw a question coming about that as well. It's being recorded, and we'll post it. We'll post it soon. If you want to watch more meetups or live builds or webinars or things like that, you can always go to video.mendix.com. There's a whole library full of interviews, videos, and all kinds of other video content. Or go to youtube.com/Mendix community and hit subscribe, so that as soon as we post something, you get a notification and you can check it out. And really cool, we finally got chapters in YouTube. So I'm adding chapters everywhere, so you can easily scroll through the most important parts that you find interesting. So yeah, thanks Derek so much for hosting, and Rene for the content. Really good. Thank you all for attending, and see you at the next meetup.
All right, great.
Thanks everyone.